Welcome, baseball family, to this Thursday night episode of the Baseball Together podcast. Brig has got sneezers. Other than that, how are you this evening, Brig?
I'm great, but man, it just hit me. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm sneezing.
Raro.
You know, it happens.
It does. It does happen, especially at the most inopportune moments.
No doubt.
Well, baseball family, we're going to get into it because there's a lot going on. Typically, we don't have a whole lot of stuff to cover on a Thursday night episode because we try to get in and get out. We're still going to try to get in and get out, but we got more to cover. So before we get into that, though, real quick, we want to remind you about Chinook Seedery. Head over to ChinookSeedery.com. Use code BTPOD at checkout. Save 10% off your order. Support your mouse, support your wallet, support the show all at the same time while getting the best seeds ever. Again, that's BTPOD at checkout at ChinookSeedery.com to save 10%. Okay, first things first here. The Pirates, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Allegheny variety. They fired their manager, Derek Shelton, just this morning. It was like I was getting ready to do stuff. I think it was this stuff. I can't remember exactly, but anyway. And I saw that he got fired. And just a real quick, he's been with the team for 5+ years. His first season was in 2020, so he kind of weathered a little bit of a storm with them there. And has weathered other storms with them in the meantime. And the Pirates have not had a good start. They're 12-26. Not good. But Brig, my question to you with this all going on. Oh, and by the way, the Pirates, on the whole, as an organization, are an absolute dumpster fire right now. There's so much going on that is just... We're not even going to get into it. But anyway,
We can't.
Brig.
We don't have time.
This episode is not long enough to get into it.
Right.
Do you think Derek Shelton is the problem? Do you think he's the reason that they're 12-26?
No, he's the fall guy. He's the buy us some time patsy. It's the manager's getting fired. There's systemic change that needs to take place. We all know it. Now, if everything was going well and he was a clubhouse nuisance, toxic leadership at that level, okay, get him out, whatever. And that may be happening, but it certainly isn't the only thing happening. And
it hasn't looked like it, though.
Right.
Like, you can kind of tell when a manager has lost the clubhouse, and I don't feel like it looks like he's lost the clubhouse.
I don't think so either. Who knows, Brad?
To me, the problem is Bob Nutting being a cheapo, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You've got probably one of the 5 best pitchers in baseball anchoring your rotation, right? And then you don't say, you know what? This guy draws everywhere we go. Maybe let's get him some support this offseason. Yeah. Maybe let's really build this offense so that at least he can get some run support, right?
Yeah, but
we'll
he's
see.
Not.
But they didn't, and he's not. And this is the thing. The owner's not going to fire himself, obviously, because he's never the problem. Right. And then he goes to the GM and says, what's the problem here? The GM's not going to be like, well, I just didn't do a very good job using the pennies that you were having me pinch to put together a good team. I deserve to be fired. Well, there must be a problem in the clubhouse, so let's fire Shelton.
Yeah.
Right? That's how that went down.
That's exactly how that went down.
The Pirates will continue to be bad, but they will not be as bad as the Rockies or the White Sox. I don't think.
Probably not.
Certainly not as bad as the Rockies. Probably not as bad as the White Sox.
And I don't know why, because Paul Skeens can't be the only reason things aren't that bad. He's helping, but he's not the only reason.
Well, I mean, you've got Key Brian Hayes, very good. You've got Andrew McCutcheon, past his prime, but still good. You've got Brian Reynolds, very good.
Yeah. O'Neal Cruz, when he's good,
O'Neill,
he's really good.
very, very good. Right, exactly.
Mhm.
And that's more than what, like, those are more and better players than a lot of some, I don't want to say a lot, but some, like, actually really good teams have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
They're
I
just
don't
not
know.
putting it together.
Yeah, it's weird and it's strange. But he's going to land on his feet. I would think if he is not in a dugout somewhere by the end of the season, I'll be shocked. But I think he'll
Yeah.
certainly be filling a void early next year, or by the time the
Yep.
season starts next year, if he wants to.
If there's a slot. Yep.
Yeah, and there will be, because he's not the last one. He's the first domino.
Yeah,
Is all.
no. Yeah, that's right.
That's all it is.
We've been seeing it
All
more and
right.
more over the
Oh,
last couple of years. Every year, a manager is getting fired mid-season. It happened like once, like 5 years ago, and then twice the next season, and then once again, and then three times or whatever. It's I'd have to go back and look at specifics. That's how it feels, though. Feels like one or two guys every year gets fired, and one
during
is
the
super
season.
early, and one is later than it should be.
I think this is the first domino, and we're gonna see another one go. I think give us 3 weeks, and we'll have
Who's
another
it going to
one
be?
go. I don't know right now because the Marlins and the White Sox both have new managers, right?
It won't be Bud Black if that's what you're thinking.
And that's what I was gonna say. Like Bud Black has like immunity for something. He must have
Yeah,
pictures somewhere. I don't know what the
somewhere
deal is.
he's got leverage. He's got serious leverage. It doesn't make sense. What
There's
does his
something going
what
on
does his
there.
PO box look like? He's got
Yeah,
some he's got some stash somewhere.
he's got a
It's crazy.
clandestine storage unit somewhere that's
That's right.
locked up tight.
Huh.
Anyway,
We should do an episode of Breaking Bud Black.
we should. I like that. That's good. All right, let's move on. Strike zone apparently is shrinking, kind of. So
Kind of.
this was something that happened. This happened about a week ago. We talked about it a little bit, but I wanted to actually get into it here. So MLB and the umpire union agreed to shrink the buffer zone around the strike zone by an inch and a quarter. Okay. For those of you who don't know, the buffer zone is the area around the edge of the strike zone. You can go 2 inches in to call a ball, 2 inches out to call a strike, and the umpire will not be penalized on his scorecard with the union. So he won't. So if he's calling a bunch of strikes in that buffer zone off the plate, it's not going to affect his standing within the umpire union and consideration toward being put in postseason play, things like that, or postseason games. But they went from 2 inches to now it's 0.75 inches. Now, this is the thing that's interesting about that is that all this time over the last several years, we've been looking at K Zone on TV, right? We've been watching games of K Zone. Umpire, we go to almost every day I go to X to look at umpire scorecards to see, especially the games
Right.
that I watched, to see how the
Yeah.
umpires did because I'm just curious, right? But I
That's yeah.
don't think that either of those will account for the buffer zone. You just have to know it's there. However, if you're watching a game on MLB and you're watching like the Statcast, watching the pitch by pitch, right?
Yeah.
It has the buffer zone there. I assumed it was something like that, but you didn't see it anywhere else,
Right.
and so
You're
I
talking about
wasn't
the game
entirely
day
sure.
feed?
Yes, yeah, I wasn't entirely sure if like that's what that was, right? And I
Yeah.
was listening to Todd Frazier talk about this last week, and he's like, "Oh, I've known about the buffer zone forever." He's like, "I got a ball way off the plate called strike three on me. I looked at the umpire. I was like, that was so far off the plate." He goes, "Sorry, Todd, it was in the buffer zone." Like, whoa, okay,
Unapologetic.
well, kind of. He said, "Sorry, Todd."
Yeah. It doesn't sound like much of an apology. Sorry,
But this
Todd.
is
I
the
don't have
thing.
to be
So
sorry.
there are a couple things with this. First off, MLB didn't release anything about this. This is quiet. And they didn't even tell the players, the managers, or anybody else in MLB, despite Rob Manfred being like, "Oh yeah, we told all you guys that. We told everybody. You don't remember we talked about that? We talked about this." Right? But
Exactly.
everybody's like, didn't hear anything about this.
Nope.
And that the way that they found out was analytics. That they are looking at how much tighter umpires are calling the zone. Catchers and pitchers are like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And so that's how they were. And then they asked MLB, and they're like, well, yeah, we sent out a memo. Yeah, of course. And Rob Manfred's response, which was basically that, reminded me of. I actually went back and listened to our interview with Samson, where he was talking about how, because we asked him if he would sign a petition to have Rob Manfred decommissioned, and he said no, and I signed an extension. He goes, and this is the thing you have to understand about Rob Manfred. He is a lawyer who is terrible at PR, and continues to be terrible at PR.
That's exactly what he said.
That's what this is that he's continuing to be terrible.
But he's bad at PR. Right.
Because this is bad PR. However, hold on. One more thing real quick. I was listening to FT today, Foul Territory, and they had Logan O'Hoppe on. He said, like, has it changed anything about the way you approach the game? He goes, it's changed everything about how I approach the game.
Oh, yeah.
Changed everything about the way that I frame pitches, the way I call pitches, like all of it. And so it's interesting that it seems like MLB didn't actually send out a memo so that these teams could adjust. It's kind of weird. But the positive of this whole thing, Brig, is that umpires who players for a long time have said they're very good at their job. Like, they always preface, but he was terrible tonight with, they're very good at their job. Right?
They do always preface it.
With a smaller buffer zone, they're getting balls and strikes called correct at a higher percentage than they have in at least a decade.
What?
Imagine that. You take away that buffer zone, and they tightened it up. They're better. 88.2%.
No way.
You take away that buffer zone, and umpires have been better than what they were before. They were using the buffer zone as a crutch, is what that tells me.
That's right.
They know the
just
zone.
Gonna say that.
They know the zone. They know it well. But they're using the buffer zone as a crutch, and probably situationally.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think...
Dude, that's wild.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, that is crazy to me that it's gotten that much better. Any amount of better is... They're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make your job harder. We're going to require you to be more precise. And they're saying, all right, watch me.
Deal.
Hold my beer. Here's what you're going to see. You want to bring in robots? No, I'm way better than that. It's like, what? I would never have seen this coming. If you had sat me down and said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make it harder on umpires to be precise. We're going to make it more difficult. And we're going to hold them to a higher level of accountability based on that. And they're going to get better. I'd be like, ugh, I don't know, man.
I don't believe you.
Maybe in other professions, that's the case, right? You apply a little pressure. Okay, we get a little better. Got it, right? I would not have bought it with this. No way.
I know. Me neither. But we did see a couple nights ago, we saw an umpire. There was a play at the plate. Runner was clearly out. And I can't remember who it was, but the team... Or no, he was clearly out. They called him safe. The defense challenge is overturned, and the umpire forgot to turn his mic off.
Oh.
So he announced the call's overturned, the runner is out, and before he forgot to turn his mic off, and he goes, bleep. I bleep and missed it. Bleep. And I knew it. I saw it. Into a hot mic. And so it's like...
no.
Okay, like... the vocal mistake, right? But to me, it's like the dude cares. He wants to get it right, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It's the important part out of all this takeaway is like, man, he hated that he got that wrong, even though he knew what he saw. He knew the guy was out, but he still called him safe for whatever mental lapse. It happens, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's interesting.
Over
the last week and a half, we've seen a different side of umpires brought to light that it's like, okay, like they do care, even though sometimes it seems like they just don't. I think that they have to make it seem like they don't care because they don't care about the outcome of the game, and they don't care about what your manager has to say about what seems like 5 blown strike calls.
Speaking of managers who care, Mike Schilt, and he was ejected for I think the fourth, like only the third or fourth time, like this season
Ever?
or whatever. And
Oh.
Tatis got ejected for the first time in his whole career the other day.
Yeah, Schilt got
Because of
Schilt ran out there just
yeah,
so he went out there, he tossed his pen, tossed his scorecard, and he tossed his
yep,
glasses.
his
And then I can't
glasses.
remember who it
Yeah.
was after somebody put in an injury report that said Mike Schilt says his glasses were not scratched. So
An
whatever
injury
kind he
report.
has,
Oh,
whatever
that's
kind of good
awesome.
lenses he has, he needs some kind of endorsement from that company because,
Yeah, he
hey, look,
does.
I can throw my glasses in the dirt and they won't get scratched.
Yeah. Oh, and I do. Have.
Yes, absolutely. Have and will again.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's
All right,
awesome.
I'm decked
Go
out in
ahead.
Mariners gear tonight. Usually I'm wearing Mariners t-shirt, Mariners hat anyway, but I'm wearing my
Yeah.
Julio jersey tonight because guess what,
Yeah,
Brig?
you are.
My Mariners have the best record in MLB since April 7th at 18-7. Currently
Yep.
sitting at 22-14, just like I think they're just like a game back of the Tigers for best record in the American League. It's thinking
I'm
Yeah, it's like
thinking.
2 games back of the
I'm
Tigers. Tigers
thinking.
25-13. They are legit pickles, Brig.
Well,
That's
yeah.
better, Brig, than your Yankees even. Sitting
That's
on
not
top of the
nice.
American League West by 3 games in front of the West Sacramento Athletics. Sorry, just the Athletics, who, by the way, are way better than anybody thought. But we're not
Oh
talking about
yeah,
them. We're
dude.
talking about the
Oh,
Mariners. Maybe we'll talk about the Athletics on Monday or on Tuesday. But they've won 9 series in a row. Are you ready for some? I'm going to throw some quick numbers at you here, Brick,
dude, I can't wait.
because this is so different than it was last year. Because the Mariners, remember, got out to a big 10-game lead over a
Right.
terrible division last year.
Yeah.
The division in the
Couldn't
first
hold it.
half was so bad. Okay, that 10-game lead didn't feel legit.
No, they just couldn't hold on to it.
So first, my guy Julio Rodriguez has not struck out once in the month of May. I know today is the 8th, but still.
Okay.
In
I was gonna
today's
say.
game, not striking out over the course of a week is unfreaking real. The last
Yeah,
time he
you're
struck
right.
out was the 5th inning of Wednesday. What day is that? Wednesday the 30th. And so this month he's put up a 203 WRC plus, 2 home runs, slashing 316, 409, and 632.
Whoa.
Yeah. And this, especially from a guy who was like second or third in MLB in strikeouts last year. And a lot of the conversation in Seattle sports radio was like, is Julio just going to be a guy who strikes out a ton and then has like little blips and little flashes of greatness? Or is there a way he can figure this out? And it seems like he's figuring it out.
Yeah.
He's drawn more walks this year. His chase rate is down. Uh, Basically, all the good numbers are up, all the bad numbers are down. I was looking at it the other
Right.
day, and I was like, this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
amazing. The only thing that's down that's a good number is his sprint speed is down like 0.2 from what it was last year. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with that because,
Yeah. We'll take it. Yeah.
yeah, that's fine. But
Yeah.
I feel like the Mariners are legitimate this year. They get out to a big lead, I think they're going to hold on to it because it's so funny. So one of the things that they talk about on, again, Seattle Sports Radio, they're talking to Jay Buhner, talking to other former Mariners, and they're like, what's different? What are they doing? What are they doing? And Jay Buhner's like, they're playing small ball. All these people are like, they're playing small
No
ball.
way.
They're not, though. Jeff Passan got on. He's like, no, they're not. They have like more home runs than like almost everybody. They're like second or third in MLB in home runs. They're not playing small ball. But what they are doing, Brig, is they're not swinging for home runs. They're just happening.
Oh.
Because
I
the last
see.
several years it was swing hard, miss hard, hit hard, right?
So it's a small ball
Which-
approach with great
It's a small
success.
ball approach, and the home runs are just happening.
That's pretty.
That you're
That's
seeing
pretty
way
awesome.
more balls in the gaps than I have seen the last 3-4 years by the Mariners. And the fact that they're getting those, and then those eventually turn into home runs, that's what's happening. And Cal Raleigh has been on an absolute tear. He's leading MLB, tied for the MLB lead for home runs right now.
Yeah. With
So
Aaron Judge.
right, and if Judge wasn't hitting 400, I think Cal would be leading leading the clubhouse for MVP, but after the first month. But anywho,
Maybe.
any hoodles, we have a comment. You ready?
Yes.
Rickton says, "Yo, I think Julio is going to go on an August 2023 run real soon. It sure feels like it.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely feels like he." And I'm curious if it's going to be longer than it was in 2023 because I think it was like 8 days, something like that. And the way he's hitting and seeing the ball, it sure seems like it could be a much more sustained run. But anyway, that's enough about my Mariners. We have one more thing we need to get into just real quick, and this is just ridiculous. Rafael Devers is acting like a diva.
Yeah, this
With
dude.
Tristan Casas out for the rest of the year with the torn patellar tendon, we talked about this the other day, the Red Sox have asked Devers to play first base. Makes sense, right? Got a guy down, and you've got a guy sitting on the bench who literally has a glove. However, he said through a translator to the Boston Herald, they told me that I was going to be playing this position DH, and now they're going back on that. So yeah, I just don't think they stayed true to their word. And then more, he said, I know I'm a ball player, but at the same time, they can't expect me to play every single position out there. In spring training, they talked to me and basically told me to put my glove away, that I wasn't going to play any other position but DH. So right now, I just feel like it's not appropriate. It's not an appropriate decision by them to ask me to play any other position. Okay.
You want okay. Can I comment on this?
Go right ahead.
Shut your cabbage patch cheeks. Shut them. You're either going to be on the team or you're not. You're either going to help the team or you're not. And by the way, while your numbers are serviceable at a DH, you are not a superstar. You do not get to command anyone.
Not this year.
No, you do not get to command anything right now. And they pulled you from your primary position in favor of somebody who was better and continues to be better. So shut up. And if they want you to do more to contribute, if they're willing to put more faith in you, or think about it this way, you're the least of the bad options. I don't care how you have to think about it. You are of value to them. This is a step in the right direction for you as a player. As you know, they signed you to a big, long deal, dude. Like, step in there. They're giving you a chance to play every day. It will not take away anything from your at-bats. You're still going to get just as many trips to the plate. I don't know what you're complaining about there. You have experience at one of the hot corners. It's going to translate somewhat. And nobody is expecting you to win a Gold Glove. They're not expecting you to make it to the All-Star game as a first baseman. All they're expecting you to do is pick a few balls out of the dirt and don't boot anything. That's all you got to do. And then get up to the plate and do the same thing you're doing every day anyway. And by the way, it's every day. That dude leads Major League Baseball in games played right now.
Right. Yeah. And this is my other thing with this is I don't think they're asking him to get his glove, go out and play first base tomorrow.
Of course not.
Because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he's ever played a game at first base, not at the big league level.
I would be surprised if he had.
I'm going to double check it, but I don't think he has. And that's not an easy position. Like, totally understand. No, has never played first base at the big league level. Okay. It's not an easy position. You've got to deal with wild throws coming from all over the diamond, right? But at the same time, though, like, dude, be a teammate.
Seriously.
Right? So if Bregman got hurt and they said, okay, Rafi, we got to put you at third base now, would he be like, you told me I was playing DH?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Be like, no, because you took it away from me. And so now what I'm going to do is tell you, no, I'm going to take it away. I'm taking my ball. I'm going home.
Yep. Screw you guys. I'm going home. Here's another comment from Rickton. I like this. Rafi needs to step up. If you look at championship teams, I cannot read tonight. Someone like Mookie does what is necessary to get to hoist the trophy in November. Boom.
That's right.
That's it,
Mookie
man.
Betts moved in from he went from the outfield to shortstop. He played some time at second base. That dude will do whatever it takes.
If they asked Mookie Betts to play first base, he would do his darndest to do it.
He would borrow a glove, and then in a certain amount of time, he would be just as good as any other first baseman.
Right. Yeah.
He would find a way.
It's pouting, and it's a really bad look from your highest paid player on your team.
Yeah,
Because you would think
so
somebody
petty.
getting paid that much is like, what do I need to do to help this team win?
It's so, and that's what I'm saying. He signed that deal.
Home, so. They're
supposed to have him around forever and for always, and he is now ruining his it's optics. It's bad for optics. His reputation is being ruined in the clubhouse, I'm sure. It's being ruined with the front office. Of course it is. It's being ruined with all of the coaches and managers around the league who are sitting here watching this. And how can you as a fan base be excited about this guy at all? He already had a step back with his Cabbage Patch cheeks. He does not need another black mark under his eye, which he wears compulsively for no reason.
Does eye black even work?
I don't know anymore.
I mean,
they're smearing them.
Probably,
I've seen like
it probably
saber
does.
teeth.
It probably does because it's been used for centuries, but I don't know. I didn't think it worked when I used it.
I'm so upset. I'm a Yankees fan, so Trouble in Paradise down up in Boston is fabulous for me. I don't care. I think that's awesome. But this is some BS, and I would be so upset. And if the Yankees, let's say they got to move Devers, and the Yankees, who have third base problems, right? If they say, hey, why don't you come over here? I would be beside myself upset. I would be so upset.
And get this one. Okay, Rickton, this is a great one. I love this because I think about this all the time. They chose him over Xander too, and Xander is still a beast. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's tearing it up in San Diego. So
he is.
Oh, I love that. I love it because I like what's going on in San Diego. But anyway, yeah, it's ridiculous. Rafael Devers is being a diva, and it's unreal. It's gonna fracture some part of the clubhouse somewhere.
Yep.
Okay, last thing before we go.
Yeah.
Public service announcement. Okay, there was a tweet or a post on X about a statistic called true home runs, and it got blown up. Obviously, there was a lot of people who saw it. There were people who shared it. It was a parody account that was trying to spoof or something with talking baseball. But if you look at it, it's talking baseball.
Yeah.
It's not talking baseball. It's somebody else. And they said that MLB is going to come out with a stat called True Home Runs. Now you can look up a stat called I think they call it True Home Runs on like Baseball Savant, where you can compare hits and compare home runs across all 30 parks and see where they would have been a home run. So theoretically, yes, this is a statistic that they could easily come up with and extrapolate and display, but MLB is not going to do it. That was a fake account that posted that. So if you got, I'm very sorry. I was very confused by it because I was like, this doesn't serve anything. This is dumb.
And we were like, WRC plus, like, what is it? But we can see stat heads being all excited about it.
That's basically the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we're like, okay, whatever. You can call it something different and get the same information if you want. That's fine. It doesn't matter. It's a hoax.
Anyway,
fake news.
Somebody was being funny, and man, they did a pretty dang good job. Bang up job.
They did.
So don't believe it. All right, real quick before we get into the national TV schedule, we want to remind you about Patreon. Patreon, you can look. There's a link in the description. Go to patreon.com, search Baseball Together, and you can support the show directly. There are 5 tiers of support. Go check those out. One thing that everybody gets an extra episode every single month, and you also get stickers, hats, shirts, whatever. There's other things. And I made a bunch of promises for Brig, so there's that. Over on patreon.com.
Apparently.
So
it's awesome.
And Rickton, we're glad you like the Today in Baseball shorts. Those drop every single day.
Yep.
Every day.
They sure do.
Love it. Okay, this weekend's national TV broadcast schedule, we're going to go down this real quick like we have had to the last several weeks. Friday, your free game of the day is the Blue Jays at the Mariners at 9:40 p.m. This is a really weird rivalry, but it exists. And then Apple TV Plus games, you got the Cards at the Nats at 6:45 p.m. and the Giants at the Twins at 8:10 p.m. All these times are Eastern.
Saturday, MLB TV has your free game of the day featuring Atlanta. They will be in Pittsburgh. That's at 4:05. FS1 will not be showing baseball this Saturday. Fox 7:15. depending on where you are, your local listings will tell you whether you're going to see the Cubs play the Mets in New York or the Giants will be in Minnesota facing off the Twins. That's it for Saturday.
Very, very good.
Sorry,
Sunday.
Said that weird.
Sunday, MLB TV free game of the day. You got the Rangers at the Tigers at 1:40 p.m. Roku is back, by the way. Your Roku game is the Cubs at the Mets at 12:05 p.m. And then ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, you get the Phillies at Cleveland's Baseball Club at 7:10 p.m. That'll be an interesting series to watch. Speaking of series to watch, brought to you by SeatGeek. If we were going to games this weekend, these are the games we would go to, and we would get there using SeatGeek to get our tickets. You can too by heading to SeatGeek.com and use code BaseballTogether to save $20 on your first order. That's Baseball Together, one word, at SeatGeek.com to get your tickets to the biggest games this weekend and anytime. SeatGeek is the official ticket marketplace of MLB. Brig, obviously I'm watching the Mariners and Blue Jays. Like I said, that's a really weird rivalry, but it's a thing apparently.
It's come about.
And part of it is because all the Canadians come down to Seattle. And so it's almost like a home game for the Blue Jays, and it makes everybody mad. Right. I'm curious to watch the Giants and the Twins. I want to see Texas at Detroit because the Rangers fired their offensive coordinator and hired Brett Boone as their hitting coach. And at least for one day, they could hit. So we'll see how it goes against the best team in the American League. So be fascinating. And the Cubs and the Mets is going to be interesting too.
Oh, yeah. Cubs-Mets is going to be awesome. Obviously, I'll be watching the Yankees play in Sacramento. Been waiting all year to see the Yankees tee off in Sacramento. They brought Trent Grisham off the bench stone cold the other day, and he, in 4 at-bats, he hit in 4 pitches, hit a home run. So I'll be watching that. Tigers-Rangers, like you said, is a great one. And then D-backs Dodgers in Phoenix. That'll be super exciting to watch.
With the new City Connects, baby.
Yep, I'm here for it, man. I'm excited about it. So,
absolutely. Well, baseball family, thank you so much for... Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Rick, go ahead.
No, you're good. You always cut me off. I like that. But Rickton just said the Braves are coming into town. Rickton here in Pittsburgh. That's very exciting. You should go to a game. Absolutely true.
Like, subscribe, rate, and review everywhere that you can. We'll catch you next week.